All right, thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. I'm Daphne. I'm the Region 5 Minnesota Clean School Bus State Lead. I'm also leading the Clean School Bus State Coalition for Minnesota. If you ever have interest in joining that coalition, please reach out to me directly. Next slide, please. Yeah, so today I'll be going over the 2023 rebate announcement. This recently was announced actually in September, and we'll also talk through the 2022 Clean School Bus Rebate awards in Minnesota. Next slide, please. Yeah, so a bit of an overview. So the bipartisan infrastructure law provides $5 billion over the next 5 years for the replacement of existing school buses with zero emission and clean school buses. These new clean school bus replacements will produce either zero or low tailpipe emissions compared to those older diesel predecessors. These buses are really serving an impact in those high pollution corridors, and we look forward to the changes that they'll be providing to these communities in which they're operating. We had our first funding opportunity, which was the 2022 Clean School Bus Rebates Program, and we had our second funding opportunity being the 2023 Clean School Bus Grant Program. That opened in April of 2023 and closed in August of this year. Next slide, please. Yeah, so our goal of this program has been to engage stakeholders in developing the program. So this involves people like you talking to us about what's working with this program, what's not been working, what is it meeting your needs. So we really value consistent and constant feedback from all of you. We're always evolving the program as needed. We are allowing school districts multiple opportunities to apply for funding, as described by the rebate and grant opportunities I mentioned earlier, and we're maximizing the number of zero emission and clean school buses that are getting funded. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk through the Clean School Bus Rebate 2022. So in the 2022 rebate round, we had the state and local government entities that were eligible, nonprofit school transportation associations, Indian tribes, tribal organizations, and eligible contractors. Next slide. Sorry, 1 second. I want to make sure I gave you the right presentation here. I feel like we're, apologies. Okay. Hey, Sunita, is it okay if I share my screen? I think I'm giving you I think we're going through an old presentation. Sorry about that.
No worries, go for it.
Okay, I'll just share in 1 second. Okay. Okay. All right, we'll start over here. Apologies here. Okay, we'll just compare the two. Can you guys see my PowerPoint okay? I'm going to put it on full screen. Can you guys see it okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll go quickly. Yeah, so with the rebates, this was a smaller fleet size. We're funding between 1 to 25 buses. It's a quicker application. There is a random number generated lottery process. And with the grants, this is a longer application. There is more flexibility in funding, so you can fund electrician training costs, admin costs, and even grant support costs as well. This is larger fleet sizes for the grant application, so between like 50 to 100 buses, considering your needs of the school district or third party, and kind of what I talked about earlier. So for the 2022 rebate round, we had nearly 4 billion applications for over 12,000 buses. More than 90% of these requests were for electric buses. This funded about 2,400 buses and 400 school districts, really just big numbers here. And it was a pretty good round for the first round of rebates nationally. So in Minnesota, we had 214 prioritized school districts. We have a list of this for the 2023 rebate round on the website. 30 prioritized school districts applied and 4 school districts were selected. So these were Red Lake, Ogilvie, Canby, and Nicollet. We have 2 school districts that remain, and these are Red Lake and Ogilvie. The other two school districts had dropped out due to funding concerns. So for the goal of our 2023 rebate round is to really increase the number of school districts that are selected. And we're really targeting our outreach in these rural areas. And we're going to start to make these site visits actually in early winter with the coalition. So if you would like to learn more about that, please reach out to me. And kind of talked about it earlier. So eligible activities include the replacement of these ICE school buses with an electric, propane, or compressed natural gas. And this includes we fund the purchase and installation of the electric vehicle supply equipment infrastructure. So a little bit of the details. Similar eligible applicants to the 2022 rebate round. So state and local government entities can apply, public charter schools, Indian tribes, tribal organizations or tribally controlled schools, nonprofit school transportation associations, and eligible contractors. It is important to note, and this is a bit different from the last round, so nationally, so 60% of the funds for the 2023 rebate round are going to be going towards priority school districts, with 40% they are targeting towards non-priority school districts. So non-priority school districts do have the option to apply for this rebate round compared to the last rebate round. So the prioritization criteria of what we consider to be priority school districts or priority applicants. So the high need school districts and low income areas have to meet one of the four criteria. So the school districts have to be listed in that small area income and poverty estimates data for 2021. They have to have 20% or more students living in poverty. You have to be a Title I funded public school district, and charter school districts not listed in SAPE data, or your Title I funded large public school district, and you don't meet the 20% SAPE threshold. You have more than 35,000 students or more than 45 public schools if you're in that large public school district category. We look at the locale code 43 rural remote, which means you're more than 25 miles from an urbanized area, or you're more than 10 miles from an urbanized cluster. This does differ from the 2022 rebate, where we were looking at the 42 rural distant code. We look at BIA funded school districts and school districts that receive basic support payments for children who reside in Indian land. This is all for prioritization criteria. And like I mentioned, non-priority schools can apply for this round of rebates. The numbers for the 2023 is a little bit different. So the cost did go down for the buses. Last round, it was about $375 for a class 7 and up bus. We're looking at $345,000 and so on. You guys can look at this table on your own time. We are looking at funding an additional $20,000 to purchase an ADA compliant clean school bus. And also there's tax credits involved. So you could be eligible for IRA tax credits applicable to your bus, and you can definitely check that out on our program website. So eligible school buses, they must be model year 2010 or older, and they would have to be scrapped if selected for funding. If you don't have an eligible 2010 or older diesel school bus, you just have to scrap your 2010 or older non-diesel ICE bus, or scrap, sell, or donate a 2011 or newer diesel bus. And they've had to have provided bus service for at least 3 days out of the week on average during that 2022-2023 school year. And this kind of further talks about the requirements, but we'll move past that. So new replacement school buses, they have to be battery electric, CNG or propane drivetrain. They have to be a new vehicle, model year 2022 or newer. They have to be purchased, not leased to own. So just keeping that in mind. And this is kind of a table outlining what I said earlier. So we cover everything on the behind the meter. So we're covering the electric panel setup, charging stations, whether you're going for a level 2 or DC fast charging, battery energy storage systems, renewable on-site power, et cetera. And everything on the fleet side of the meter, or the utility side of the meter, we are not covering. So front side of the meter, that's not non-eligible expenses. And yeah, kind of like what I mentioned earlier. So we're covering charging equipment, installation costs, design engineering, and so on. Okay. And yeah, we do require that level 2 charging has to be meeting that EPA Energy Star certified charging, which is available through a link here on the slide. You can check out on your own time. Okay, I'm going to skip this. And just for resources on how to apply. So we do outline webinars on our Clean School Bus website if you would like to learn more about how you link up with your utilities. If you would like to look through the list of priority school districts, that's available on our website. You have to register with sam.gov if you are going to be applying through through a third party or on behalf of school districts. That has to be registered through sam.gov. And if you have any questions about the application process or the program, feel free to reach out. And everything needs to be submitted to us by January 31st, 2024 at 4 p.m. Eastern. And that's all I have right now. I'm happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daphne, for sharing. That was really insightful. I think really quick to add something that Daphne prefaced, but also I would love to share again with the group is that piece that she talked about when she was breaking down the percentages of that the EPA is for this rebate round. So the last round, the priority schools, that was basically the main focus of the program. Yes, I will also be, I'll have Daphne send me the updated slides, and I'm going to send this entire slide deck to everyone that RSVP'd. But anyways, all this to say is that for this amount of funding, which is about 500 million, 60% is going to those priority school districts that Daphne had listed, but it's really exciting and also really important to emphasize that up to 40% of this funding can be given to non-priority school districts. So again, it's available, but we have to act and we have to get in those applications. So anyways, I will leave about, I'd say probably space for about 2 questions. Again, I'd preface, we'll have time for questions at the end of all the presentations, but does anyone have a question right now? Feel free to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you can, so Daphne can see your face.
Hi, this is Susie in St. Cloud. And I'm just wondering about not the non-rural areas. So in St. Cloud, I feel like we've got the buses coming through our neighborhoods, and that's polluting quite a number of neighborhoods up close. And so I'm just wondering, okay, is that considered a non-priority? And what are the chances of getting a bus here in St. Cloud?
Yeah, so I actually am pulling up the Minnesota Priority School District list for the 2023. So let me just scroll through here and make sure see if you actually are on the list. So just checking out right now. Okay, so I don't see you on the list, but that doesn't mean that you are not eligible for applying. So we encourage, with this round, like we mentioned earlier, 60% of that national funding is going towards priority, 40% non-priority. So I would encourage an application from you guys. And if you have any questions on how to set that up, we can talk about that offline too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would recommend applying because this round is a bit different. We are opening the doors to non-priority school districts.
Okay, and then this is for the state contribution, because I was at the Kamala Harris when she was here at the New Flyer bus business. And so some of the people from the Department of Transportation said, it's for the rural areas or the high poverty areas. And so, I just hate for our school district to have to go through the entire process of applying and not even, being considered.
Yeah, so we do prioritize high need school districts in the application. So and unfortunately I'm seeing the list here, it is not listed as a priority school district, but
okay,
it doesn't mean that you're not, it means you could still submit an application, just considering that the percentage for the percent allocations for this round. But yeah, we are looking at the priority school districts will get like a higher weight in the selection in terms of the non-priority, but that doesn't mean that non-priority doesn't mean that they can't apply.
And also,
are the non-priority districts, are they primarily in the rural areas?
it's
a mixed bag. So with sorry, go ahead, Sunita.
Oh, I was just gonna say, actually, later on in this presentation, I have a large Google sheet that kind of breaks down where the priority school districts are. Also, if Daphne hadn't mentioned this before, there's a way for school districts to self-certify. It's really got those broken down that I will be going over in the second half of the presentation. And also quickly to add to Susie, I totally get the the concern of applying and not being selected, but also it's really great to have that information. So then if this funding, it's available for 5 years. And we're in our second round now, but that means we'll have 3 more after this. Additionally, the rebate program is a lottery process. And we're competing with the entire United States. So also, the more applications Minnesota as a state together can get into this in before the deadline, the higher chance we have overall. So sorry, go ahead, Daphne, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's increasing the number of applications from Minnesota compared to the last round. That's kind of what we're emphasizing here.
Awesome. Well, definitely, Susie, as well. I'd love to connect with you and talk a little bit more offline about St. Cloud. I saw Chuck's.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I saw Chuck's hand is up.
Yes.
I know there was an additional hand, but I'm just going to cut it off at Chuck just for time's sake. But we'll come back. Lynn, I think I saw your name in the chat. Feel free to type out your question. I'll make sure we address it.
Daphne, Chuck Lashevsky, I live in the Roseville School District. My question to you is I didn't quite understand the 2010 buses versus the 2011 buses. Are they being treated the same?
Yeah, so if you don't, like, the requirement is, like, if you don't have a 2010 or older diesel bus to scrap, we tell you that you can scrap a 2011 bus, diesel ICE bus. So it's just that if you don't have the 2010, you can use a 2011 or newer diesel bus to scrap, sell, or donate. So just
Good.
3 things. You have to scrap it, sell it, or donate it.
Right. And that makes sense, because each year, I would think it should go up another year on the buses that are eligible for the same reason. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. All right. Thank you so much for that question and clarification, Chuck and Daphne. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Daphne. I think she'll be able to hang around till the other end of the presentation. But now I'm going to move it on to Jane, who is with the Dakota Electric Association. And she's got a really awesome presentation for us. And also, Jane has to leave after she's done presenting. So if you do have questions, please write them down. I will throw her email in the chat. And we'll make sure you'll be able to get them answered that way. But Jane, take it away whenever you're ready.
All right. I think my camera still isn't working. Can you see my video at all? My camera?
Unfortunately, we can't see you, but we can see you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, good that you can hear me. So just want to say hi to everybody on the call. And then Daphne, that was a great presentation. Appreciate all that information. It was very informative. I am Jane Stiebenaller. I am the business account executive with Dakota Electric. And Dakota Electric is a electric cooperative, and we're the 2nd largest electric cooperative in the state of Minnesota. We serve over 112,000 members, and that includes 5 independent school districts. And this evening, I'm going to talk about the first battery electric school bus and give an overview on that. So next slide, please. So why did we choose a pilot for an electric school bus? So in 2016, we surveyed our members and they expressed interest in EV technology. Well, growing EV technology and beneficial electrification is a mission for Dakota Electric. So we thought, okay, what can we pilot that's an EV? And the school bus just seemed to make a lot of sense. It has a defined route, so you know exactly how many miles it goes. So I thought, okay, let's pilot a electric school bus. It also aligns with the Minnesota Pollution Control and EPA's goals to improve air quality, and by reducing emissions, making it a cleaner transportation. The pilot is also an opportunity to demonstrate electric school bus performance in cold climates, longer routes, rural areas, and to document the regional economics and how much emissions is reduced from route and school premise idling. Next screen, please. So, as I mentioned, we serve 5 independent school districts. And out of those 5 districts, only 2 have bus garages in our service territory. And at the time when we were meeting or developing this pilot, one of the school districts was considering moving their garage off of our service territory into another utilities service territory. So that left Schmitty and Sons. So we had conversations with Smitty and Sons, and they are the transportation provider for Independent School District 194 Lakeville. And they were all on board, 100% supported this pilot. So they've been wonderful to work with. So there was the three of us doing the partnership on this pilot program: Dakota Electric, Schmitty's and Sons, and Great River Energy. And Great River Energy is our generation and transmission provider. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the implementation process. So we had several meetings and a plan was devised to execute the pilot program. We knew we wanted an all-electric school bus. And at the time, Elion out of Canada had a bus that kind of fit the bill. But before we went ahead and ordered the bus, it's like, okay, let's find out a little bit more about this company. You know, this is all new to us and we want to touch it, feel it, drive it, that kind of thing. So a factory tour was arranged to go up to Canada and in fact do all of that, learn a little bit more about the company and demo the bus. So we did all agree, yep, let's move forward with this bus, and we went ahead and placed the order. So prior to us getting delivery of the bus, Elion trained drivers and mechanics. And then the summer of 2017, Minnesota's first electric school bus was delivered to Schmitty's and Sons bus garage in Lakeville. So it's very exciting. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about the bus and the charging station. As I mentioned before, it's an Elion Class C school bus. It has a one standard DC TM4MD electric motor. There is 5 battery packs that are 26 kilowatt hours and they're lithium ion. The range is right around 100 miles, 15 years is estimated battery life, 72 passengers. And at the time, the bus was right around $325,000, and it was about 3 times more than a comparable diesel. We chose to go with the Clipper Creek level 2 charger. It's 80 amps, 240 volts, 19.2 kW. And the charging time is about 4 to 6 hours. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about the bus. Schmitty and Sons runs a 2-tier route. Basically, that means going out and picking up the children in the morning, bringing them to school, and then in the afternoon, picking them up from school and bringing them back home. So the bus does come back after the morning route at about 50% battery. So they do a midday charge so they can complete the route in the afternoon. They could probably get by on just one charge, but if it's a little bit hot or a little bit cold, they don't want to take any risks. So they do a midday charge bump. The bus is in its 7th year of operation, and it's logged 64,000 miles. A little bit about the driver who's been driving it for 7 years. She's a school bus driver for over 30 years. She's driven every type of bus: diesel, propane, and now the electric. Out of those 3, she prefers the electric. It's smooth, it's quiet. She loves the way it handles on the road, and especially in poor road conditions. Mechanics feedback is positive as well. The fact that it is an all-electric bus, there's less maintenance to do in comparison to a diesel. And then part of this pilot program and this partnership was, it was important for us to engage the community about the pilot program and the EV technology. So when the bus first arrived in Minnesota, we took it on a tour throughout the state of Minnesota, and we stopped at 7 Minnesota electric cooperatives to showcase the bus and its technologies. And also the bus appeared several times at the Capitol for special events. It's been in Lakeville's Panaprog Parade and the Minnesota State Fair as well. Next slide, please. So what did we learn from the pilot? So it is better for the environment. There's 25,000 pounds less of carbon dioxide than a diesel. We do know that it has lower fuel costs. So on average, the electric school bus is about 33 cents a mile, and the diesel comparison is about 55 cents a mile. We do know it does work in cold climates and it operates very well on the roads. And also, I wanted to mention that in speaking with Schmitty and Sons, in the 7th year, they've just started to notice some battery degradation. So on those extremely cold days and really hot days, they are noticing the battery performance is going down. I would like to mention too, our charger, that Clipper Creek charger, is not located inside the building. It is outside the building. So that is going to affect or have an impact on the battery charging for the bus. But overall, have to say this is successful and the results are very favorable. So a few tidbits I thought I'd like to share with the folks on the call was, if you're looking to apply, which I hope you do, to get a bus, start having a plan early. Having a plan is gonna, help with smoother project, more positive outcome. We've had some people reach out, not necessarily with school buses, but with other VVs, and they just kind of have the cart before the horse. So research buses and charging stations. What's going to work for you? And then a very important one is start talking to an electrician, your electrician, and of course your power company. As a utility, we do need to know that, like, the specs of the chargers, the charger location, determine if the existing electrical infrastructure will work, or does some have to be added, or does it have to be upgraded or enhanced. In certain scenarios, you may need a larger transformer because the one that's there isn't big enough to provide the power to the charging stations. And because of supply chain issues, some transformers can take up to 52 weeks to get. So plan early. Engage and train the mechanics and the drivers, engage them, have them part of this, have buy-in, and then choose the best route for the electric school bus. But that kind of concludes my presentation. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. If you want to talk directly to Schmitty and Sons, I can definitely connect you with them. They're always more than happy to field any questions you might have. So anyway, thank you to Minnesota 350 for having me, and hope you all have a good rest of your evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jane. Really appreciate your presentation. For folks, I will put her email in the chat right now, but I have it also on the screen. But also a really big reason why I'm so excited and happy that we were able to have Jane on the call today is because Lakeville was the first school district in Minnesota, but also in the Midwest, to get an electric school bus back all the way in 2017, which I know, to me, it feels like yesterday. But anyways, this is a very exciting thing. And so anyway, thank you so much, Jane, for joining us. I dropped her email in the chat, and you can also definitely take a photo of this slide right now as I introduce our next and final speaker. His name is Scott Harrison, and he is an associate with Highland Fleets. And he worked with, when Daphne had mentioned back before in the 2022 Clean School Bus Rebate Program, and that round, the first round of the rebates, Red Lake was actually a school district that was selected and got an electric school bus. And Scott has been able to work closely with them. And so anyway, really excited for this presentation. And Scott, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks so much, Sunita. Hi, everyone. Really excited to be talking with you guys this evening. First off, just wanted to thank MN350 for inviting me to speak about Highland and our partnership with Red Lake. And then also Daphne and Jane, you guys had some great information there. Definitely take a peek back at their presentations if you have any interest in pursuing electrification for your district, because there was a lot of good stuff in there. So for those of you who don't know, I'll start with just a quick overview of Highland Electric Fleets. That's the company that I work for. And then our partnership with Red Lake. I can't click, sorry. Can you jump slides for me? Appreciate it. Okay, so just a little background on Highland, and I'll be quick with this part, but we're a turnkey provider of electrification services. So basically, oftentimes after a district has procured funding, the next question is, how do I do this, right? They just got a big amount of money from the EPA. And that's really right where the process starts. There's a lot to figure out in terms of planning your project, maintaining your buses and operating them for the full useful life. And so Highland kind of bundles everything from inception all the way to the end of the life of the bus into one partnership with the district. So that's kind of our model. Next slide, please. This is just a little overview of where we are right now. We started in 2018, and really exciting milestone. A couple weeks ago, we hit 1 million miles driven with our electric fleets across the country. And so we're really excited about that. And we have a ton of experience with the EPA application, both the rebate and the grant rounds. I think we've applied for or helped apply over 160 districts so far across the country. So Daphne is obviously a better resource than me, but I'm happy to answer any questions as well. Next slide, please. And then this is just a quick overview of everything that we kind of do. So from the initial, actually doing the EPA rebate and grant applications, we are an approved contractor under the EPA. So we help districts apply directly free of charge. And then once they receive funding, if they want to work with us, we basically handle all the pieces of the project and bundle it into one contract. Electrification can be really kind of overwhelming in a lot of ways, especially if you're trying to transition a large number of buses. And so our mission is kind of to make electric school buses not only affordable, but reliable for any school district. So next slide, please. And then so let's go over our partnership with Red Lake. So as we already talked about, Red Lake was, really forward thinking, and they applied for that EPA round 1 rebate all on their own. We had no interaction with them. The folks in the district there are great, and they're really into sustainability at their community. And so not only are they, one of 2 EPA round 1 award winners, or I guess there were 4, but 2 are going ahead with the project in Minnesota, but they'll also be the only school district located on a sovereign tribal nation. So we're really excited to be partnered with them. And, we're really excited to make a difference in that community. Little background on Red Lake's just transportation history and overall, you guys probably know where Red Lake is in Minnesota, way up on the southern shore of Red Lake. It's a bit of a drive from Minneapolis, about 4.5 hours, and it gets cold up there. I think it's probably not unusual to see negative 40 degrees in the winter. So that's obviously a big challenge for electrification. And so we worked with the district to solve a number of these problems that they were thinking about after they were awarded, and they all kind of relate back to overall project complexity. But we basically worked with them to put these buses on their very shortest routes. So they have a kind of a mix of long and short routes, some of which are much too long for electrification right now, especially in that climate. So until technology gets a little better, they probably won't be putting any electrics on those routes. But we're going to be putting these buses on routes that are about 25 to 30 miles a day in town. And then fortunate for Red Lake, they store some of their buses indoors. So we'll actually be installing 2 DC fast chargers, lower powered units indoors for Red Lake. And we've worked with Beltrami Electric, which is the utility up there. And they've been a really great partner. And we'll be installing a standalone 480 volt service with a dedicated EV transformer for these 2 buses. So really reliable power supply. And they'll have plenty of power and capacity to meet their routes basically any time of the year. And so in the winter they'll be on those short routes, but in the spring and in the fall they'll be able to run these buses on longer routes, which I know they're excited about. I know I was kind of skipping around on this slide, but kind of the main takeaways is Red Lake's going to be getting 2 Type C Bluebird buses. They're going to be powered by 2 DC fast chargers. And they're one of 2 electrification projects that are funded by EPA round 1 in the state right now. And we're really excited, to help Red Lake, and we're really excited to see what these next 2 rounds of funding bring for Minnesota. So as a Minnesotan myself, I'm very partial to getting projects in the state. So next slide, please. So this is just a little timeline, like showing a little bit of what you can expect from an EPA application. So Red Lake applied for their round 1 rebate summer of 2022. I think they got their notice of award sometime in November, and then they issued an RFP for electrification services in April, I believe. We responded to that RFP and were fortunate enough to be awarded. And then we worked throughout the summer with all the stakeholders. So that's the district, the utility, the district's preferred contractor, the bus OEM, to get all the necessary purchase orders in place to submit to the EPA. And then we'll be starting construction in June, and they should have their 2 buses rolling middle of August this year and ready for the 2024 school year. So that'll be an exciting time. And then a couple of quick lessons. I know Daphne touched on this, but SAM.gov, and these aren't lessons that are, specific to Red Lake necessarily, but more kind of our EPA applications as a whole across the country. A lot of districts think they have their SAM.gov account updated and everything, and then they end up, having it be expired, and that can cause some problems. That account needs to be updated to submit the POs and even to submit the application. So if you're thinking about submitting out an application, make sure you have your SAM.gov updated, and then once you do, make sure it stays updated so you can submit the POs properly. And then don't be afraid to ask the EPA for an extension. The EPA has been great in granting districts extensions, and they do need that extra time often to get everything in order, whether it's an RFP process that's run long or a PO order that they need to, square away. It may come that you need to request an extension of some deadlines. And then I know Jane touched on this, but definitely talk to your utilities really early. That can be kind of one of the longest lead time pieces in planning an electrification project, especially if you need to do like a full interconnection study and you're putting in a big dedicated new EV service. It can be a long lead time. Up in Red Lake, Beltrami Electric was fantastic to work with, and we'll continue that partnership. But some of the bigger utilities, for sure, it can be a pretty long lead time item, planning out the primary side work on their end. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of a little overview of our partnership with Red Lake and where the responsibilities lie. So like I said, our goal is always to make electrification simple for a district. And so we're not trying to change anything when we're working with the district. Like, the district is the expert in transporting their students, operating the buses, managing the drivers. We don't do any of that. What we do is all of the kind of auxiliary things, reimbursing for maintenance and repair, dealing with warranty, dealing with the utilities, managing contractors, managing the construction, managing the charger and bus operations and maintenance for the lifetime of the contract, things like that. And so we're trying to be a partner, not trying to change how busing is done at a district. Next slide, please. And then these are just some of the community benefits that I think we're all very aware of in this group, but wanted to flash them again just in case anybody isn't aware of all the great things that these electric buses are doing for our communities. But that's kind of my presentation, and really happy that you all could join, and happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Awesome to hear you're either from or based in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, I'm from west of the Twin Cities a ways. I live in Maine right now, but hoping to be back to Minnesota at some point in the not so distant future.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for speaking. Highland, also to kind of amplify their organization as well. Again, they for the past 2023 EPA grant program over the summer helped Minneapolis get an application across the line as well. So they've been a really great ally and resource for electric school buses. I did see that Lee had a question in the chat, and then Katie.
Yeah, of course.
So
Looks
maybe
like
we could, Lee, if you want to speak on your question, and then we'll pass it over to Katie.
All I have to say is that I'm just wondering if, I've got an answer here. If they're looking for, Highland's looking for more business in Minnesota, and what their website web address is. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. We're certainly looking for more business in Minnesota. I really what we're looking to do is help as many districts as we can in Minnesota apply for the round 3 rebate program. You know,
Okay.
whether you would decide to work with Highland or not, really what we want to make sure is that those applications get in and Minnesota gets as big a piece of this pie as they possibly can in terms of kind of the next electrification wave. Our website is just highlandelectricfleets.com. And I think I threw my email in the chat there. You're more than welcome to shoot me an email and I can answer whatever questions you might have. But, and this is kind of what everyone else has been saying too. I think we all just really want to make sure Minnesota gets as many applications in as they can, whether you're a priority district or not. What the EPA has done this time, guaranteeing 40% of the funding for non-priority districts, means really that everyone has a shot at these buses this time, not just those districts that were classified as priority.
Okay, so do you charge for your advice?
We do not. No, we don't. No cost. We'll do a grant we did 160 grant applications free of charge in the last year and a half. So
oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Katie, if you're still on the call, I see that you had a question in the chat. Did you want to ask that now? Okay. Okay, I'll come back to you. Or we can circle back. I see that Hilda Martinez.
Sorry, can you hear Katie now?
Yes, I can
you
hear
hear me
Katie
now?
now. Okay, awesome.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
forget when I have my headphones in, I don't have any voice. My question is, what is the projected life of an electric school bus? How many years will it last?
Yeah, it depends based on the manufacturer. There are about 4 or 5 manufacturers of EV school buses, and it also depends a little bit on the utilization of the bus. If it's a bus that's being driven, you know, close to 100 miles a day, it's going to have a lot less useful life than a bus that's being driven, you know, 40 or 50. In general, we project our buses in the, you know, south and west of the country to last, you know, upwards of 20 plus years. In the Midwest, where we have all the salt on the road, you know, that's probably what's going to take out a bus before any of the actual mechanical stuff. And that's the same you see with a diesel as well. So, you know, I think we're probably projecting somewhere around 15 years for sure. But, you know, that's assuming we have good maintenance on the bus and can prevent that corrosion.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so I see that Hilda Martinez won. Your hand is up, so we'll have your question, and then I see Dan Trujano's hand is up after, so we'll have you two go next.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Scott, for your presentation. I think it was great. I have a question regarding, you present like a timeline that when they started, the proposal, which was in the summer of 2022, and you expected to the buses to start working next summer, more or less, right? So would you say that's the average time, or it will depend how do you have things like maybe previously that you talk with utility or? Yeah,
exactly. This is a good timeline, I think, if you're dealing with the EPA rebate or grant application. And this was also the first EPA program, and I think it, you know, was a little more drawn out than the rounds 2 and 3 and probably subsequent applications are. So I think this is probably, you're looking at about the longest cycle you could right here, you know, about 1.5 years or so from, you know, award to deploying of equipment. But like Jane was talking about, with all of the, you know, buses coming on the market and then also kind of just general supply chain issues, you do see pretty long lead times for certain pieces of equipment, especially really large transformers if you're transitioning a big part of your fleet. Large switch gears as well, another really important electrical component. And then the buses themselves can have long lead times, especially with all the orders that are going in from, you know, the EPA money on the market. So it's not, I mean, it generally is a long timeline, but it can definitely be sped up a lot more than this one is right here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you for that question. All right, Dan, take it away if you still have your question.
Yeah, I got another one for Scott. Thank you so much. You said that Highland will help with applications, and I know that this round of the rebates, they're due on January 31st. If a school would like to complete an application and have you do that with them, what's the timeline that you think they would need to actually begin to look at things with you? Does that have to happen now, or could they say, okay, we're going to talk about this at our school board meeting in December, and then come mid-December, let's get Highland involved? Is that enough time for them to go ahead and say, we're going to get an application in, or
That's a great
lead time?
question. Yeah, a great question. My short answer would be, if you think you have any interest, start talking to us right now, and we're happy to, start the process. That's not to say that if you decide you want to do it in December or even January, we wouldn't make it happen if we can. There's a couple key things that need to happen. There are 3 forms that need to be signed. One's a letter of intent that the EPA needs to see, and Daphne can probably speak to that. Another one is a school board awareness form, saying that, a representative on the school board is aware of the program, and just that the grant or the rebate is being submitted. And the third one is a letter from the utility saying they're aware of the project and providing some details. And so we, are happy to take care of all those pieces for you, but it does require some engagement, for sure. And then the fourth thing you need is to provide just a little bit of information on your fleet metrics and what buses you'd be scrapping. And then we can take the rest of it from there as far as getting all the rest of the fleet information. I would say the sooner the better. If you don't know right now, that's fine. And, we'd be happy to have that conversation whenever. I will tell you that we're currently engaging a lot of districts to get applications ready to make sure they get in. You can submit them whenever the application is done this round. So there's no harm in trying to get those applications in early. But yeah, my suggestion would be sooner rather than later. But if it doesn't happen until later, I'd be happy to try to make it work. Minnesota is kind of a focus of mine, so I'm trying to kind of get as many districts as I can in the state to sign up.
Did that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, thanks a lot. We really appreciate that, Scott.
Awesome. Well, quick round of applause for all of our speakers. Again, I guess if there's any other question, I know Daphne is still on the call, so I think we would have time for 1 or 2 more questions for either her or Scott. And again, if you have a question specifically for Jane, please put it in the chat and I will make sure to get that to her, but she had to drop off. Is there any other questions before I let our speakers go and we kind of get into the second half of the evening?
Wondering if the slideshows are going to be available afterwards, because they went too fast for me to get much out of, especially the first speaker.
Yeah, no, once I get the updated slides, I'll be sending this out to everybody, hopefully ideally by Friday. So and I'll send the recording out as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other questions for our speakers before I'm going to have them log off, unless you're dying to stay, but have the speakers log off otherwise? Okay. Well, I will include their information in the follow-up. Thank you so much, Daphne and Scott, for joining us tonight. Seriously appreciate the work you all both are doing, and really grateful to have you tonight. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to move us into the next part of the meeting. So now I'm going to be talking a bit more about MN350's, along with Minnesota's kind of focus on electric school buses. I kind of broke it down into 3 different parts, focusing on the past, present, and future for electric school buses. So to begin with, in 2022, which is when the EPA's first round of the Clean School Bus Program launched. This program, in case anyone was not aware, is funded through the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, which that was put out by the Biden administration. So it's basically there's that act that then allocated $5 billion over the course of 5 fiscal years to help electrify America's school bus fleet. So then the Biden administration took that $5 billion and assigned it to the EPA. And so then the EPA follows and kind of created this program under that act. And so with why I'm really enunciating the 5 fiscal years is because, you know, you have $5 billion. Ideally, it'd be $1 billion spent each fiscal year. And those fiscal years run from fiscal year 2022. So that's why I'm talking about 2022 right now, all the way to fiscal year 2026. So we have time. And I like to think about kind of each fiscal year as a round. So we've already had 1 round of the rebate program in 2022. Right now we are in the 2nd round. And then in the summer this year, we had the 1st round of the grant program. So to go over, Daphne mostly had, but in 2022, Minnesota had sent in 30 applications for the rebate program, which does sound like a lot and does feel like a lot. And Minnesota 350's transportation team did a lot of that work, talking and engaging with school districts. But there's over, I think, 250 schools and school districts in Minnesota. And so when you take just that 30, we really want to have an uptick in that amount. And also with the rebate program, we're competing with the entire United States. And like I had said, it's a lottery. So I sort of picture it like this, like doomsday bingo ball set, you know, the thing that cranks. So basically, the more times we get Minnesota in there, the more likely we're going to get picked out. So 30 applications were sent in for the rebate program in 2022. Oh my gosh, 2022. 4 of those school districts were selected. Like Scott had said, though, only 2 of them are going forward with that. However, there are 25 schools that remain on the wait list. So the wait list means that those are the remaining schools that sent in applications, however, were not selected, either due to the luck or not luck of the lottery, or additionally, they weren't a priority school district, but they were on the wait list just in case a school decided to drop out and they would be next up. So then in 2023, which we're currently in, exciting stuff, we had kind of, I like to call it an off season. That means that the EPA's rebate program had closed, but the grant program was not expected to open until the spring. And funny enough, we happened to have, for the first time in decades, a DFL trifecta. And so with the help of MN350 Action, Health Professionals for a Healthy Climate, the 100% campaign, and the Coalition for Clean Transportation and more, we were able to help push a piece of legislation this past legislative session, which is an electric school bus grant program. And that will be deployed through the Department of Commerce. If we had to take a guess, I think that program will start to be deployed in the new year, so 2024. We've been working very hard to try and nail down clarification on when that is happening, but we were able to get $13 million slotted for that program. So that'll get Minnesota around 30 electric school bus, and that is through a state program. So that means that it is all that $13 million is just for the state of Minnesota, versus the EPA's program is a federal program. So that's for the entire United States. Then after the legislative session this past summer, was the EPA's Clean School Bus Grant Program opened. So that program is a lot more competitive than the lottery because I'm twisting my words. I'm going to slow down. The EPA's Clean School Bus Grant Program is more competitive than the EPA's rebate program because instead of it being a lottery process, they individually review each of the applications. But with the grant program, there is more money on the table, but there are higher stakes for you to be selected. Minnesota 350's Clean Transportation team, we sent out letters with information on the Clean School Bus Grant Program to around 80 of the priority school districts. along with, we met with multiple different school boards and individuals that are on the school boards, busing companies. And so being able to really get the word out, and it kind of showed that the momentum's there. We still need to keep pushing, but definitely the appetite's there. And then now, currently, we are in the second round of the EPA's Clean School Bus Rebate Program. And this is currently open until January 31st of 2024. Which feels far away, but I promise we're going to all blink and it's going to be January 1st before we know it, with the holidays in there. And so we really want to get this message out now and as soon as possible. So we can get, again, as many applications in as we can before January 31st to increase our chances of being selected for this next round of funding. So now to kind of look towards the future, we have, MN350, we have a goal of getting at least 50 applications in this round through community outreach and statewide advocacy. And that is why it is so crucial and important that this is where all of you come in, of making sure you're talking to your school district and getting that application in and showing why it matters. Additionally, we're still sort of strategizing with MN350 action, but seeing what we can also do this upcoming legislative session, which will begin in February of 2024. So more to come on that. But anyway, that was a brief overview of past, present, and the future for electric school buses within the state of Minnesota. So now I had mentioned this kind of at the beginning of the presentation with, I believe it was, I am blanking. I'm so sorry. I know someone asked a question. I'm blanking on your name. I know it starts with an S though, but you had asked about sort of how can we tell where our school district falls under. So like I had mentioned before, we have the goal of having 50 school districts apply this coming rebate program round. And one of the things that I've created this Google spreadsheet, which I will be going over shortly, but it's going to be used as a tool where, as you can see at the bottom, this is just a screenshot, but there is the wait list and there are 25 school districts on there. So making sure that we are in, and this is something our clean transportation team is going to do, sort of like a baseline of making sure that we are talking to these 25 schools that have already done the application once and make sure they reapply again. So hopefully starting with 25 is kind of our benchmark. And then from there, adding the other 25 from individuals who are on this call or people you know, to reach out to their school districts and see what's possible. Because again, everyone has a shot this round. But again, I'm really trying to preface, it's up to 40% of those extra funds can go to non-priority school districts. But if not a lot of non-priority school districts apply, then that fund, it's not just saved just in case, you know, it's an option. So on top of this, we've already spoken with Roseville, Dan Trajano and Paula are on this call and they are leading, and also so is Zach, with a school board meeting coming up November 13th in Rosemont, Eagan, Apple Valley. So if you live in that area, or if you want to just come hang out, please feel free to just say I'm interested in the chat, and I can make sure to connect you with them. Also, there are some individuals here from Mankato with the Zero Waste coalition that they are a part of, and talking to their bus provider on how this can happen. An additional two groups that have not, this hasn't happened yet, but all this to say is that this is a goal for us, is to get Minneapolis and St. Paul to apply again for the rebate program. They both were able to apply for the grant program, but through other parties or third parties. And so trying to engage, especially in Minneapolis, that seems to be a spot that we're kind of struggling to get energy around, even though Minneapolis is a city that, you know, faces, some communities face the most air quality or air pollution in the entire state. We will also additionally, for our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks at 6:30, a training for individuals on kind of how to start these conversations, figuring out your pitch, and how to engage your community. I'm going to take a break because I see that Brooke has her hand raised. And so, yeah, I would love to hear your question, Brooke.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Brooke Roper. I'm sorry I joined just a little bit late at work. In collaboration with Sunita and Dan and Paula, kind of just around the electric school bus movement. I'm also a current candidate for the Hopkins School Board. Elections are next week, so praying that I'm elected, and I will definitely be, promoting this for the Hopkins School District as well. And what I understand, they already have maybe applied for some funding. Though I do have a question, Sunita, for it is about the American Lung Association. So what I discovered is that they are urging the federal government to allocate $20 billion in funding towards electric school buses. And so I was just wondering, are we doing, or are we looking at doing any advocacy work in collaboration with American Lung Association? And or if we're not, could we, is that a program that's like already out there that they're doing that we could also promote for folks to take advantage of?
Yeah, I think that was something I was not aware of, but definitely, I know that the Coalition for Clean Transportation, which I had mentioned, had talked about collaboration with the American Lung Association, and I think that is a beautiful place to start. I also see that Lisa is on this call, and I don't want to put you on the spot at all, but I know that you work closely, or if you have some relation with the American Lung Association. If you have anything to say on that, feel free. Don't want to put you on the spot though, but just wanted to flag that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here and be part of this call. I am an employee of the American Lung Association based here in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we also oversee the Minnesota Clean Cities Coalition. Also on this call tonight is Adrian Hardy, who is newer to our team over the past few months too. So Adrian, if you have anything to add, jump in after this. But yeah, the American Lung Association is very involved in promoting electrification of fleets and school buses in particular. And there's the national campaign, which you were mentioning. And then here in Minnesota, we do a lot of groundwork. We had actually helped Red Lake get a grant originally, and then they got this one. So then we were able to take the dollars that they'd originally had to another area. And we do a lot of events. So looking to be part of the process. We help with a lot of grant writing as well with a lot of the cities. So there's a lot of different areas, a little more non-traditional here in Minnesota with some of the work we do.
Thank you, Lisa. Adrian, did you have anything to add, or if not, that's okay too.
No, I think Lisa covered it all, but thank you.
Awesome. Wait, did that answer your question, Brooke, or did you need further clarification?
No, that answers my question. Hi, Adrian. That answers my question.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for raising that. And yeah, Brooke is a fantastic advocate. And if there's anyone in Hopkins on the call, November 7th, Brooke's your girl. So again, kind of to go over again, I would love to see folks. I saw some people in the chat mentioning that they'd be interested in engaging their school districts, and we are hosting a training on November 15th. There will be a hybrid version. This will be a hybrid event. All of our team meetings are hybrid. So if you are in an area where you can't come down to Minneapolis, totally fine. Also, it's getting like snowy and icy out. So like if you need to do that online, that's totally fine as well. So I'm going to kind of go over the steps, and then I'm going to show you an example of how to kind of navigate through our Clean School Bus Rebate School Directory. So unfortunately, I can't screen share two screens at the same time. So I'm going to kind of go over the instructions first, and then we'll see it in real time together. So in this Google Sheet, what you will first do is you open it. It's going to be large, but I promise it's just to try and help you and feel less daunting. So you will look through each tab to find your school district. And so a kind of fun tip to make this a little bit faster is you could do Command F on your computer, and then a little box will pop up in your left or in your right hand corner, and you could type in your school district and it'll take you right there. So for example, I live in St. Paul, so I would do Command F, St. Paul Public Schools, and it would take me to that spot within the Google Sheet, so I wouldn't have to be scrolling. But if you have any trouble doing this, or if you just kind of want someone to be with you and we can screen share while you're doing this, please just shoot me an email at sanita@mn350.org, and I'd be more than happy to do that with you. So that's the first step. Second step is then this is kind of a individual sleuthing opportunity. You are going to find your school district's contact information and send an email. So we have collected some contact information for school districts, but not all of them. And if the information for your school district is listed, then feel free to use the information that's already provided in the Google Slides. And you'll be able to use a template that I will also be linking in the follow-up email for an example. And we'll also be seeing another example of what an email could look like. That's basically pre-written for you. You just have to change a few things. However, if your information from your school district is not listed, which is most of the case right now, you will go into Google and search for your school's name, transportation director. Then this will likely redirect you to your school's website, which you should be able to find that contact information. However, if this is at all a challenge for you, you can definitely use the superintendent instead, because again, there are multiple stakeholders within this. And then you are going to record what you did. And so there will be a little column at the very right-hand side for you to date and provide your initials. So that way we can kind of keep track and keep each other accountable on seeing, what's being done and what school districts we still need to get to. So now that I've said it all out loud, I am a visual learner and I am going to kind of show you what I mean. So, all right. So this right here is the master Google Sheet, and I will throw it in the chat right now for people, just so in case you want to kind of follow along. Okay, so this is what the Google Sheet will look like when you open it. The steps that I had just kind of gone over are also listed right here. And then these tabs that I talked about are right at the bottom. So the first one is just kind of breaking down what Daphne had already said for what a prioritized school is or isn't for the EPA's 2023 rebate program. And then the third tab is the 2022 waitlist. And so this one, I have listed all of the it's either transportation director, superintendent, or principal, depending on what was available through an easy Google search. And so all of these have been filled out. And again, this is what MN350's Clean Transportation team is going to focus on doing, is trying to at least make a benchmark again for these 25 districts that have already applied, already had these conversations, to do so again. The fourth tab is the 2023 prioritized school districts. So that means that it's either a school district that is on Indigenous land, it falls under the rural criteria that Daphne mentioned, or falls under the SAPI data, which I always blank on what the acronym is, but it is basically they take the data from 2021, and basically if a school district, their total population is over 20% within poverty, then they are considered priority, but if they're under that, they are not. So that's for 2021. One of these days I'm gonna remember it. And if anyone else remembers it, please feel free to throw it in the chat. But this has a very similar kind of breakdown. It has the district name, city, state. We have your mailing address. Oh, maybe we have it for everyone. Oh, sorry, I'm shocking myself. And then this is the really important part, the G and H, the providing the date and then initialing here. So I'm just gonna give you all an example, basically. So let's say that I'm trying to remember which one I did. I think it was, yeah. Okay, so let's say I lived in Adrian, in the city of Adrian, and I go to, or I have a child or a niece or cousin that goes to Adrian Public School District. So I would find it right here in the tab, and then these are the empty slots. So this one right here is for the name of the individual, and this is for an email. So what I would do is I would open up Google and I would Google Adrian Public School District Transportation Director. And so when I run that search, I've already done it this round, but it runs the same thing. This is the first tab that came up for me. And also, again, this is kind of an indicator. If the name of the district is there, it's pretty much a reputable source. When you start to get ones that maybe don't sound like Lend Connect, if that doesn't sound very much like the district, then try to aim for one that has the district name in it. So if I were to click on that link, it would take me to their website, and that is where I'd be able to find their transportation director, whose name is Ben Newsome. And so when something is colored blue and underlined, that usually means it's a hyperlink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on it and select control, which kind of opens this pop down for me. And I'm going to copy his email address. And then I'm going to go back to the Google sheet, and I'm going to write his name, so Ben Newsome, and then I'm going to paste the email. Perfect. And so now we have the email in the Google spreadsheet for everyone to see. Now, I'd also mentioned before that we had talked about there's different templates that we have available for individuals to use when writing these emails. And one of those is, it was actually written by Dan Trahana, who's on this call, and it is a template like this. You can see it already has the header included for you. What you would need to do is put in the ISD number, and then also you can, again, this is something that you can just copy and paste, or you can make it your own too. So I would then take this, I would copy and paste it into my email. Obviously, anywhere that there are brackets, I would change and modify to fit my school district. And then once I do and send that email, I would go over to the last ones, and my name is Sunita Vanderloo, so I would initial right here, and then I would provide the date. So that's kind of a breakdown on how.
Hey, Sunita.
Yes.
Lynn noticed the same thing I did. That one that you picked up is from Adrian, Michigan.
Oh, well, thank you.
Just want to make sure you don't send out an email and it goes to Michigan.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that catch. See, this is why it's great to do it with a buddy, or 18 other buddies watching you. So thank you so much for checking that. So I'm going to highlight this for myself to go back to after this to make sure I fix it. But either way, the process is still the same. Just also make sure you're doing it in Minnesota as well. Usually I didn't do it for this, obviously, but you can see sort of where it is, or if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it'll sort of tell you the address. Because I have done this multiple times, believe it or not. I know it's really hard to believe, but anyway, so this again is an example of the email draft. We also have another one the MN350's comms team has created. So I will send both of these out. Whichever one resonates with you, you can use. And then finally, kind of for some next steps and also thank you. And I also easily can take a few questions. I think we have about 10 minutes, so we can definitely do some questions. But please, if you can, come to our training on November 15th, where we'll be kind of talking in a smaller group setting about this program along with what we can do, and kind of talk to you about, okay, how do you have these discussions and what do you bring to the table, what is important. A recording of this will be sent out to all attendees, and feel free to send it to whoever you would like. You could even send it out in that template email that I had just shown. You could say, hey, you could check out this recording. It breaks down a bunch of useful information for electric school buses. And again, if you have any questions or interest in engaging with your own school district, please email me at sanita@mn350.org so we can get you all set